Alright, so it's easier to do reference angles in degrees because degrees are what we're used to, and degrees don't involve fractions. So we'll do a reference angle with degrees first. Let's go ahead and write down our problem. Example is given an angle of 135 degrees, draw the reference angle. So all we're going to do here is just draw the reference angle. We're not even going to do anything with the reference angle yet, just draw it. So 135 degrees, we draw that. That's going to wind up in the second quadrant, right here. That's 135 degrees. Now I'm not going to highlight this time. If you want to, if you need to, go ahead, but I'm just going to use the definition. So our reference angle is the angle that's formed by the x-axis and the terminal side of theta. So our angle is going to be right in here. Now when it says draw the reference angle, that means that we need to tell how big it is. So how big is this reference angle? Well, we would need to do 180 minus 135, and we get 45 degrees. Okay, I knew that right here was 180, so I just subtracted our theta and was able to find how big the reference angle is. Now that we know how big it is, we can find sine of 135, cosine of 135, and tangent of 135. Okay, and here's how we do that. Sine, cosine, and tangent are just simply sine, cosine, and tangent of our reference angle. But we also need to take into account the negativity of certain trig functions given the quadrant you're in. All students take calculus. So basically all we need to do is use this triangle that we're very familiar with, the 45, 45, 90. We know that the sides of a 45, 45, 90 always come down to the ratio of 1, 1, square root of 2. So sine of 135 degrees is going to be 1 over the square root of 2, which we need to rationalize and get the square root of 2 over 2. It is positive because we're in the second quadrant and sine is positive there. However, cosine is not positive, so it's going to be negative 1 over the square root of 2. And then we rationalize and get square root of 2 over 2. Lastly, we're going to do tangent. Tangent is also negative. And here, if we look, tangent we know is opposite over adjacent, so negative 1 over 1, which is just negative 1. And there you have it. So that's how we use a reference angle to help us determine the trig values of an angle bigger than 90 degrees. And you can see that, oops, I forgot my negative sign. You can see that these values are very close to what they would be of the acute angle 45 degrees, except for those negative signs. So I'm going to highlight those so that we kind of see that was the difference that was made by it being larger than 90 degrees. Okay, so now what I want you to do is go ahead and stop. I want you to get a little practice here. So I want you to go over to your ISN. And I'm going to get mine. And we're going to do a practice problem. So on the right hand side on page 33, I want you to draw the reference angle reference angle for 225 degrees. Then find sine, cosine, and tangent of 225 degrees. So you're going to find these three trig ratios for the angle 225 degrees, which is greater than 90. So you have to use that process I just showed you. Once you're done with that, then we're going to move on to doing it with radians, which is a little bit trickier just because of the fact that you have fractions involved.